The night on planet Seren 4 was quiet except for the sound of wind moving through the tall blue trees. Elias worked alone near the edge of the forest, repairing a broken weather drone beside his small metal outpost. The fog from the river made it hard to see, and the stars above looked like cold silver sparks. It was a lonely life, but Elias was used to it. Humans had few colonies this far out, and he liked the silence more than the noise of the cities he had left behind. He wiped his hands and stood, ready to turn in for the night when a strange sound reached him from the distance. It was not the wind or the river's usual hum. It was sharp, like a cry, but not quite human. He froze, waiting to hear it again. It came once more, softer this time, and he felt something pull at his curiosity. He took a small flashlight and his scanner, stepping toward the fog. The path sloped down to the riverbank where silver water glowed faintly in the dim light. When he reached the edge, his scanner blinked with life signs. Something was moving in the water, struggling. Elias rushed forward. At first he thought it was an animal, but as he got closer he saw the shape of a woman, pale with long silver hair spreading like threads across the surface. Her tail, covered in reddish fur, twitched weakly under the water. She was trapped under a piece of metal wreckage, her body pinned down by the current. Without thinking, Elias jumped in. The cold bit into his skin instantly and the current tried to pull him under, but he fought against it, gripping the wreckage. It was part of an old transport pod half buried in mud. He used his wrench to loosen the frame, his breath turning short and rough. Finally, the metal shifted and he pulled her free. Her head fell against his arm, and he saw her eyes for the first time, golden, bright, and filled with confusion. "Stay with me," he said, dragging her toward the shore. She whispered something in a soft, broken tone. He could barely understand the words, but it sounded like a warning. "They come," she murmured before falling unconscious. Elias laid her on the riverbank, gasping. He checked her pulse, faint but steady. The strange tail twitched once before going still. He had never seen a being like her before. She looked human in most ways, but her ears were pointed, her nails slightly sharp, and faint markings ran along her arms like glowing threads under the skin. He hesitated for a moment, unsure if she was even from this world. Then he decided he could not leave her there. He carried her back to his outpost, the cold mist following him all the way. The outpost was small, just one main room with tools, a generator, and a narrow bunk. He placed her on the bed and covered her with a thermal blanket. As the heater hummed, color began to return to her face. Her breathing steadied. Elias sat on the chair beside her, watching as she slept. He wondered who she was. No records mentioned any native species like this. The scanners always showed empty life readings for this region. Yet here she was, alive, injured, and clearly intelligent. When she finally stirred, her eyes opened slowly. For a moment, she stared at him as if unsure he was real. Then in a rough voice, she spoke again. "Human," she said quietly. "You should not have touched me." Elias frowned. "You were drowning. I could not just watch you die." Her golden eyes softened for a moment, but then her ears twitched sharply. She sat up fast, ignoring the pain, and turned toward the door. Her tail flared behind her like a warning flag. "They will come," she said again. "They will smell me." "And you? Who?" Elias asked. "What are you talking about?" But she did not answer. Instead, she stood unsteadily, her bare feet light on the metal floor. She moved closer to the window and stared out into the mist. Her body was tense, her sharp senses scanning something unseen. The air outside felt heavier now, almost electric. Elias picked up his scanner again. At first, it showed nothing. Then faint signals appeared. 5, maybe 6 life forms moving slowly toward the outpost. Their heat signatures were strange, shifting as if they were blending with the fog. He felt his stomach tighten. "You are right," he said. "Something is out there." The foxwoman turned to him, her expression fierce now. "You saved me," she said softly. "Now they will hunt you too." Elias stared at her, trying to understand. "Then we hide," he said. "Or we fight." For the first time, she gave a small, sharp smile. "You do not understand, human." They do not stop. Outside, a low sound rose through the fog, a deep growl that made the metal walls vibrate. Elias checked his blaster and sealed the door. The lights flickered once, then steadied. He could see movement through the mist now, tall shadows shifting closer. The woman's golden eyes glowed faintly as she whispered words in her own language, her tail curling behind her like flame. Elias took a step beside her, realizing that his quiet life on Saren 4 was about to change forever. He had only wanted to help someone in trouble. But now, as the first shadow moved toward the door, he knew he had crossed into something far greater and far more dangerous than he could ever imagine. The door creaked, and the fog outside turned red from strange lights. The foxwoman's hand tightened around his arm. "Do not fear," she whispered. "If they come for you, they will have to go through me first." The night fell silent again, just before a thunderous knock shook the walls. Elias looked at her and saw the truth in her eyes. Whatever she was ready to fight for him, and the hunters were already here. The morning on Seren 4 came dim and gray. A heavy mist covered the forest and the smell of wet soil filled the air. Inside the outpost, Elias sat quietly by the window, holding his cold cup of coffee. The night had passed without sleep. Outside, no more shadows moved, but the memory of glowing eyes and heavy footsteps still haunted him. The foxwoman slept on his bunk, wrapped in the blanket. Her breathing was slow and steady. In the pale light, her silver hair looked almost white, her skin marked with faint red patterns that pulsed softly like veins of light. Elias could not stop staring. She looked fragile and strong at the same time, like something both human and wild. When she finally opened her eyes, her golden gaze met his, sharp and cautious. "You stayed," she said softly, her voice rough but steady. "I could not leave you," Elias replied. "You were half dead." She sat up slowly, watching him with unreadable eyes. "You are a strange human," she said. "Most of your kind would run from what they do not understand." Elias gave a small smile. "Maybe I am not like most." She tilted her head slightly, studying him as if she was trying to see his truth. Then she looked around the room, her ears twitching at the faint hum of machines. "You live alone here?" "Yes," Elias said. "The others left after the storms got worse. I fix weather drones. Keep the systems running for the colony." The foxwoman's tail moved slowly, brushing the blanket. "You fix things," she murmured. "Even broken creatures from the river." He laughed softly, and for a moment she almost smiled too. But her expression hardened again. "You do not understand what you did. You touched my blood. My scent is now mixed with yours. My tribe will think you are my mate." Elias blinked in surprise. "Mate? It is a bond," she explained. "It means protection, unity, and danger. Anyone who hunts me will now hunt you. My clan believes humans are destroyers. They will not forgive what you did." Elias frowned, his mind racing. "So helping you means they will come after me?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, you are marked." He sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Great, so what do we do now?" Her eyes softened for a moment, then turned cold again. "I protect you," she said simply. "It is my duty now." Elias shook his head. "You can barely stand." "Watch me," she whispered. In one smooth motion, she leaped from the bed and landed silently on her feet. Her movements were graceful, almost soundless. She closed her eyes, focused for a moment, and her markings glowed faintly brighter. The air around her shifted with energy. Elias could feel it, like static electricity crawling across his skin. He watched as she reached for his old knife from the table. Her fingers glowed faintly and the blade trembled, then lifted by itself, floating in front of her. Elias stepped back in shock. "Telekinetic control?" he asked. She turned her head slightly, the faintest hint of pride in her tone. "Instinct. We were made this way long ago." "Made?" he repeated, but she ignored the question. Suddenly her ears twitched again. Her head snapped toward the window. "They are close." Elias grabbed his scanner. It showed no readings, just static lines. "I don't see anything," she growled softly. "They hide. They use the forest to mask their heat, but I can hear their heartbeats." She moved toward the door, light as a shadow. Elias followed, unsure what to do. The moment she stepped outside, the mist wrapped around her like a living thing. Her eyes glowed faintly gold, scanning every shadow. The silence of the forest was heavy, broken only by the soft hum of wind. Then a sudden flash, a blur of movement near the tree line. Elias barely saw it before she did. In one swift motion, she leapt forward, landing where the shape had been. There was a sharp crack and a cloaked figure rolled into view. Its armor shimmered, blending with the fog like a living camouflage. The creature hissed and aimed a weapon, but before it could fire, Kari, the foxwoman, slashed her hand through the air. A wave of invisible energy struck the attacker, throwing it backward. Elias ran to her side. "What are they?" "Hunters," she said, her voice low. "They have my scent. They will not stop until I am dead. Or you are. The hunter's armor flickered, then went still. Kari knelt beside it, touching the ground. The earth pulsed once with red light, and the body sank slightly into the mud as if the planet itself swallowed it. She stood again, turning to Elias. You see now why I must guard you? Elias was still breathing hard. You saved me, he said. I thought I was supposed to be the one protecting you. Her ears flicked back, her eyes bright with a strange emotion. You are human, she said softly. You always think you are the savior. But this time I'm the one who saves you. He met her gaze, and for a moment neither spoke. The air between them felt alive, charged with something neither could explain. Back inside the outpost, Kari paced slowly, her tail swaying. They will send more, she said. They will not risk their failure spreading. Elias looked out the window. Then we prepare. She turned to him, her eyes narrowing. You are not afraid? Of course I am, he said honestly. But fear does not help. Tools do. Kari tilted her head again, curious. You are strange, human. You do not run, you do not hide. You fix, he smiled faintly. Then maybe I will fix this too. Kari watched him for a long moment. Then slowly her voice softened. My name is Kari, she said. If we are bound, you should know it. Elias nodded. Elias, he replied quietly. Kari's tail flicked once. Elias, she repeated, almost testing the sound. Then she turned her gaze back to the mist beyond the glass. They will come again when the second moon rises. He looked at her glowing eyes, at the way her breath fogged the air like steam. Something inside him knew this was only the beginning. The quiet life he had known was gone forever, and whatever was coming next would change everything. The red moon of Seren 4 rose slowly through the mist, staining the forest with color like blood. The fog was thicker tonight, curling around the trees like smoke. Elias stood on the roof of his outpost, his hands cold on the metal railing. His scanners showed motion, small, fast-moving heat signatures flickering in and out of range. They were getting closer. Inside, Kari was sharpening a strange curved blade made from dark crystal. The sound of it against the metal filled the room, steady and calm. She had not spoken much since the last attack. Her golden eyes stayed sharp, her ears twitching at every sound. Elias could feel the tension in the air like an invisible thread pulling tighter each hour. They are circling us, she said finally, her voice low. They are testing the ground, waiting for the fog to grow thick enough to hide their steps. Elias climbed down, landing quietly beside her. We can't stay here forever, he said. They'll find a way in sooner or later. Kari looked up, her expression unreadable. You want to run? I want to live, he replied. There's a human outpost 20 kilometers south. If we can reach it, we can call for help. Her tail moved slowly, brushing the floor. Help from your kind will bring war. If they see me, they will think I am the enemy. My people will answer in blood. Elias sighed, running a hand through his hair. So what's your plan? Just sit here and wait for them to kill us? Her eyes flashed briefly with anger. I said I will protect you, she said sharply. You saved my life. The bond cannot be broken, he met her gaze. Then we fight together. Something changed in her eyes, a mix of surprise and something softer. You are brave, she said quietly. Or foolish, he gave a faint smile. Maybe both. Kari turned toward the window, her claws tracing the glass. When the fog becomes red, they will come. They hunt by sound, by movement. Do not speak, do not run. If they see fear, they will smell it. Elias nodded and began checking his old drones. Most were damaged, but a few still worked. He adjusted their wiring and added small explosive charges made from power cells. If they triggered them near the forest line, maybe they could buy time. Kari watched him work. Your machines are weak, she said softly. But your mind is strong, he looked at her. And you? You said you were a scout. What were you doing in the river? Kari hesitated, her tail flicking. I was searching for truth, she said finally. Our leaders told us that humans destroyed the world that gave us life. But I found old signals beneath the water, a voice calling from before the war. It led me to your ruins, and to you. Before Elias could ask more, the outpost lights flickered. The air temperature dropped suddenly. Outside, the fog began to glow faintly red. Kari's head snapped toward the door. They are here. Elias armed the drones and sent them out through the hatch. On his screen, he saw movement, 3, maybe 4 shapes moving low to the ground. The drones flashed through the mist, small blinking lights vanishing into the trees. Then silence. A sharp metallic sound followed by a flash of light. The monitor went dead. Kari crouched low, her ears alert. They are faster than I thought. Elias reached for his blaster, but she raised a hand. Wait, listen. From the fog came faint clicking sounds, rhythmic like language. The hunters were communicating. Kari's expression hardened. They know I am bound to you. They mean to break the bond by killing you first. Elias gripped his weapon. They'll have to get through both of us. The door vibrated suddenly, once, twice, then burst open. A figure lunged through, cloaked in shifting armor that made it blend with the walls. Kari moved instantly, slashing upward with her crystal blade. Sparks flew. The creature screeched, its mask splitting open to reveal a mouthful of silver fangs. Elias fired his blaster, the energy beam cutting across the room. The creature fell, smoking, but two more appeared behind it. Kari leapt toward them, her movements a blur of light and motion. Her markings glowed brighter, her claws cutting through metal like paper. Elias ducked behind the console and triggered one of the drones remotely. Outside, an explosion shook the ground, sending smoke and debris through the air. When the light cleared, one of the attackers lay motionless. The last one retreated, vanishing into the fog with a strange hiss. Kari fell to one knee, breathing hard. The glow from her body dimmed. Elias rushed to her side. You're hurt, he said. She shook her head weakly. It drains me every time I use my power. He helped her up and led her to the bed, then stopped trying to do it all alone. Her eyes met his, softer now. You fight like one of us, she whispered. Not with fear, but with heart. Elias smiled faintly. Guess we make a good team. Kari leaned back, her tail curling around her. The hunters will not stop, she murmured. They will call the pack. When the second moon rises, their leader will come. Elias sat beside her, staring out the window where the forest glowed faintly red. Then we'll be ready for him, he said quietly. Kari turned to look at him. For the first time, there was something almost human in her eyes. Trust, maybe even warmth. You are strange, Elias, she said softly. No human has ever stood beside me before. Then maybe it's time that changed, he replied. Outside, the fog thickened once more, and far away in the forest, the howl of the hunter leader rose, a low, haunting sound that promised death before dawn. The fog had not lifted since the attack. It crawled across the forest floor like a living thing, swallowing the sunlight before it reached the ground. Inside the outpost, the power cells hummed faintly. The lights flickered every few minutes. Elias worked quickly, his hands shaking slightly as he connected the final wire of the portable generator. Kari sat nearby, her arm wrapped in a bandage made from his old shirt. The wound glowed faintly where her blood had touched the fabric. She had said nothing since dawn, her golden eyes staring at the wall as if she could see beyond it. You should rest, Elias said quietly. She didn't look at him. Rest is for those who have time, she murmured. The pack will come when the twin moons rise. Elias tightened the last bolt and straightened. Then we find a way out before that happens. I scanned the area this morning. There's an underground path about 5 kilometers east. Old human tunnels, maybe from the first colony. Her ears flicked toward him. Old tunnels? Yes, probably abandoned, but if they still connect to the lower valleys, we can reach the canyon base by nightfall. Kari's expression changed slightly. The canyon base, she whispered. There was once a temple there. My people say it was cursed, built by humans who mixed their blood with ours. Elias frowned. Mixed blood? She looked at him, her golden eyes cold and distant. Do you still not understand what I am? He hesitated, not wanting to answer. You're not human, that's clear. But you're not like the hunters either. Her tail moved slowly. Because my kind was not born, we were made. The words hung heavy in the air. Kari stood, walking toward the window. Long ago, when humans came to Seren 4, they tried to make this world their home. But the air, the light, the gravity, it killed them slowly. So they used our ancestors, the wild ones, the native creatures that lived in the rivers and forests. They fused human genes with theirs, shaping us into living tools that could breathe your air, survive your storms, and serve your purpose. We were half of your kind. And half of this planet. Elias felt his stomach twist. That means... Yes, she said softly. It means that you and I share blood. But after the humans left, my people erased the truth. They called humans destroyers, monsters who twisted creation for greed. We learned to hate you, to hunt your kind if you ever returned. She turned toward him, her expression unreadable. That is why they will never stop chasing me. They call me a traitor because I touched one of my creators, and because I care for him. Elias stood silent for a long moment, unsure what to say. So you were never meant to exist, he said quietly. Kari's eyes softened with sadness. None of us were. We are proof of your mistakes. He shook his head. No. You're proof that we can change what we made. You're proof of what we could have been. For the first time, she smiled faintly, but it was a sad smile. You speak like someone who still believes in hope. Someone has to, Elias replied. If we're both hunted, then we might as well fight for something that matters. Kari studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Very well, she said. We will go to the tunnels, but if we are discovered, I will not let them take you alive. Elias gave a small laugh. I'll do my best to make sure they don't. They packed what little they could, food, power cells, a rifle, and Kari's blade. As they stepped outside, the forest was eerily still. The air shimmered faintly as if watching them. Kari moved ahead, silent as a shadow, her body blending with the mist. Elias followed, scanning the trees for movement. Halfway to the tunnels, the ground began to shake. A faint vibration pulsed through the soil. Kari stopped, crouching low. They are here, she whispered. Shapes appeared through the fog. Tall, cloaked hunters, their armor glowing faintly. Kari turned to Elias. Run! Elias hesitated, then sprinted toward the ridge. Behind him, energy blasts cut through the air. Kari leapt between the trees, her blade flashing like fire. One hunter lunged at her, but she spun mid-air, cutting through its weapon. Another fired from behind, hitting her shoulder. She cried out but kept fighting. Elias reached the entrance to a collapsed tunnel. He turned back just in time to see Kari fall to her knees. Without thinking, he ran toward her. Kari! She looked up, blood glowing on her arm. Go! She shouted. They will kill you. Not without you, he said, grabbing her arm and pulling her up. Together they stumbled toward the tunnel. A blaster bolt hit the ground beside them, throwing dust into the air. Inside the tunnel, darkness swallowed them. Elias hit the switch on his light. The walls were covered in old symbols, half alien, half human. Kari stared at them, breathing hard. This is the place, she whispered. The old lab. The truth is buried here. Elias knelt beside a console, brushing off dust. It blinked faintly as if recognizing his touch. A holographic screen flickered to life, showing ancient logs. Words scrolled across it, Project Seraphim hybrid success. Human DNA stable. Kari stepped closer, her expression filled with disbelief. So it is true. We were born here. The console beeped again. A voice recording played. Human, male, old. If anyone finds this, know that we did not mean to create monsters. We wanted harmony. We wanted to live. Kari's eyes shimmered with tears she didn't understand. They wanted peace, she whispered. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. And maybe we can still finish what they started. Before she could answer, the tunnel shook again. Dust fell from the ceiling. The hunters were entering the tunnels. Kari gripped her blade tightly, her glow returning faintly. She turned to him. No more running, she said quietly. If they want blood, they will find both human and hybrid standing together. Elias nodded. Then let's show them what that means. Outside, the howls grew louder. Deep beneath the planet's surface, two old enemies, now bound by code and blood, prepared to face the storm together. The tunnels trembled with every passing second. The air was filled with the echo of footsteps, many of them marching closer. Elias adjusted the blaster's power cell, his fingers trembling as dust fell from the ceiling. Kari stood near the broken console, her blade glowing softly in the dark, her breathing steady despite the wound on her shoulder. The light from her markings painted the walls with faint gold. They are almost here, Elias said, checking the scanner. 6, maybe more. Kari nodded once. The leader will come too. He never lets others finish the kill. Elias looked around the ancient chamber. Old machines lined the walls, covered in moss and ash. One large device hummed faintly, powered by an old reactor deep beneath the lab. He stepped closer and brushed the surface, finding a small human symbol etched into it. 3 circles joined by lines. Beneath it were words half erased by time. Rebirth protocol, Kari, he said, pointing at it. This reactor still works. If we overload it, we can blow this entire place before they reach the surface. Kari's eyes flickered toward the console. You would destroy the last proof of what joined our blood? He looked at her, his face pale but calm. If it saves you, I would. For a moment she said nothing. Then she stepped closer and placed her hand over his. You speak like someone who has already accepted death. Maybe, Elias said. But I won't let them take you. Her golden eyes softened. You are bound to me, Elias. That means I protect you. He smiled faintly. Then maybe we protect each other. The ground shook again, harder this time. A section of the tunnel roof cracked open, letting in faint red light from above. Through the dust, Elias saw shapes dropping down, tall, sleek, and armored. The hunters moved like shadows, their weapons glowing with shifting blue light. Kari stepped forward, her blade humming. Stay behind me, she said. No, Elias replied. Side by side, the first hunter charged, its energy blade slicing through the air. Kari met it with a spark of light, her crystal sword locking with the weapon in a clash that lit the room. Elias fired at the second hunter, hitting its shoulder. It staggered, hissed, and returned fire, the blast cutting across the wall. Kari moved like a storm. Her tail lashed through the air as she spun, slashing the enemy's armor open. The creature fell, shrieking. But another replaced it immediately. They were endless. Elias ducked behind the reactor, firing again. There are too many! Kari struck down another, her breath heavy. Then we finish it quickly. She leapt toward the center of the room, her markings glowing brighter, so bright the light hurt Elias's eyes. She raised her hand, chanting something in her language. Energy burst from her body, forming a glowing barrier that pushed the hunters back. For a few seconds, everything was silent except for the humming energy around her. Then a voice cut through the noise, deep, commanding, and cold. Enough, Kari. From the crack in the ceiling, a tall figure descended slowly, its armor darker than the others, decorated with silver symbols. Its face was hidden behind a mask shaped like a fox skull. Kari froze, her blade trembling slightly. Rain, she whispered. You should not have come. The leader's voice was sharp. You broke our code. You touched the destroyer's blood. You made yourself one of them. Kari's jaw tightened. And yet he saved me. He is not what they told us. The leader looked at Elias. You think the old crimes can be forgotten? You are what made us suffer. Elias took a slow step forward. Maybe we did, but if you kill her, you'll only repeat the same mistake. You'll destroy what makes both of us more than monsters. The leader tilted his head. Then you will die together. He raised his weapon. The hunters moved forward again. Kari's glow intensified, but Elias could see she was weakening. Her energy burned too fast. Elias ran toward the reactor console. Kari, cover me, he shouted. She understood instantly. With a burst of speed, she leapt into the air, striking the leader's blade with hers. Sparks flew as they clashed in midair, each strike echoing through the chamber. Elias opened the reactor panel, his fingers flying over the controls. The warning lights blinked red. The leader threw Kari against the wall, slashing her side. She screamed, but stood again, limping toward him. You will not take him, she shouted. Then burn with him. The leader hissed. Elias slammed the final switch. The reactor roared to life, its hum turning into a violent rumble. Energy crackled through the walls. Kari turned to him, her eyes wide. Elias, what did you do? Something stupid, he said with a tired smile. Run, she shook her head, her voice breaking. No, I will not leave you. The leader charged, swinging his weapon down. Kari intercepted him mid-strike, her blade piercing his chest. For a moment both froze, the leader's eyes flickering with disbelief as her energy poured into him. The glow from her markings flared, blinding the room. Elias grabbed her before she fell. Kari! The reactor's core exploded with light. A shockwave tore through the tunnels, shaking the entire valley above. The hunters vanished in the blaze. Elias felt the world fall away as fire and sound swallowed everything. When he opened his eyes again, he was lying on the canyon floor. The sky above was orange with dawn. Kari was beside him, her body pale, her glow faint but still there. She opened her eyes slowly, breathing shallowly. You are alive, she whispered. So are you, he said weakly. She smiled faintly. Now, you belong to me. Her tail brushed against his arm, warm and soft. In the distance, the horizon shimmered with the rising sun. Human rescue ships hovered above, their lights cutting through the mist. For the first time, Kari did not flinch at their sight. When they lifted her aboard, the human medics stared in awe. She looked at Elias and whispered, Perhaps our blood was never a curse. Perhaps it was a bridge, Elias nodded. Then we'll cross it together.